Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back here to Fantasy First here on the High Stakes Sports Debates Network. And guess what? It's here, week 2, Sunday. It's finally here, guys. I know you guys are just as excited as I am, and I can't wait to run down through these matchups. In today's episode, we're just going to run through the matchups, run through some defense tight end streamers, all in less than 15 minutes. I don't want you guys to have to sit through a 30-minute episode, before Sunday, Saturday, whatever you guys are doing during your off time. So I'm going to run through these matchups as quick as possible. Guys, you should start, sit. We'll go over it really quickly. And you know what? You guys can formulate your own opinion whether who you want to start, who you want to sit. So we're going to dive right in and get this going really quick. So first matchup on the slate here. The Atlanta Falcons are traveling to the New York Giants. You have to start Beckham. You probably paid a high price. You're definitely starting Jones. And you're starting both of the quarterbacks. Now, I understand Eli Manning. You would think, oh, Dallas, really good on paper matchup. If anything, I like this matchup at home against the Falcons, which their defense did look sneaky good on Monday night, but that was at home with that crowd behind them. I'm not sure they get the same type of effect this week. I like Manning. I like Beckham. Sneaky plays. Ruben Randall could be interesting, but then again, he didn't see a lot of volume. If you're in a desperate situation, I think he's a viable flex. Same with Roddy White. Actually, I would probably start Roddy White maybe as a 2. I think he did pretty decent on Monday night last week. Again, at home against this Philadelphia Eagles defense, which doesn't look too great. But again, I think that if you don't have too many other options, Roddy White at your WR2 is fine. I'm benching both defenses. And in terms of the running game, I think Coleman for the Falcons is the guy. Freeman just didn't look dynamic. Couldn't really hit the hole. Maybe he's suffering from that hamstring injury. Who knows? We'll find out. I'm not starting Coleman. I'm not starting Freeman. Coleman is the guy that I think you want to start if you're desperate at running back. For the New York Giants, in my personal opinion, I think Shane Vereen is going to be the RB to start in PPR leagues. I think Manning will go to him a little bit more this week. Rashad Jennings and Andre Williams, that's going to be a 50-50, 60-40 split until Jennings or Williams gets hurt. So I don't really feel confident with either one of those guys. Next matchup, Dallas at Philly. You have to start Romo even without Dez, unless you've got better options, maybe a Matt Ryan, a Ben Roethlisberger. But if Romo's your QB1, you got to start him. You're definitely starting Sam Bradford. The guy threw 52 passes on Monday night. The volume is there for him to be a successful quarterback 1 for you. So let's talk about these Dallas receivers. No Dez Bryant means 3 wide receiver sets are going to be a combination of Street, who they just acquired, Terrence Williams, and Cole Beasley. And if I'm starting any of those 3 guys, I really like Beasley in PPR formats. I think he sees 7 targets this weekend. And I really like Williams. I think he's going to be the go-to guy in the end zone for Romo. Street's interesting. I'm not putting much stock in his Street, though, this week. I'm a little too afraid, especially for a guy who just came in, just going to get the system. I like Williams and I like Beasley. As for that running game, it's tough. I don't think Christine Michael spells in that much this week. I still think it'll be the Joseph Randall, Darren McFadden spell-in show, although with the lack of Dez Bryant and this running back by committee, I really like Lance Dunbar. I think he's a good spot start. As for the Philadelphia Eagles, that running game's a mess. The odd man out for me is Ryan Matthews. I think Murray and Sproles are locked-in starters. Jordan Matthews is a locked-in starter. With the game Ertz had, with that volume, you probably are going to start Ertz if you went the value route with tight end. If you don't got anybody else, you got to start him. Nelson Aguilar is the interesting factor here. If I have other options, I'm going to bench Nelson Aguilar personally. However, anytime you're in a Chip Kelly system, it could be the day for you. So don't panic on week 1. In my personal fantasy leagues, I have other options like John Brown, Pierre Garçon that I would start over Aguilar. But if you relied on Aguilar to be an every week flex, maybe even a wide receiver too, because you went elite quarterback and running back heavy, Aguilar might be worth a start. However, if I have other options, I'm going to them. Next matchup, San Francisco at Pittsburgh. Hyde's the only must start. I think Vernon Davis can have a sneaky day because this offense of Pittsburgh will put up points at home. However, they are missing Martavis Bryant. With the way that San Francisco defense looked, I'll be a little hesitant to start D'Angelo Williams, I don't think he's going to go off like he did against New England. Maybe in a PPR he makes up for it, but I'm not sold. I'm not sold on D'Angelo Williams this week. Colin Kaepernick could be a sneaky play. A lot of rush yards. If you think that this Pittsburgh offense is going to put up a lot of points, then Kaepernick could be a decent stream option for you. So those are the guys I like in that matchup. Moving on to Miami at Jacksonville, you're starting Ryan Tannehill, you're starting Lamar Miller, you're starting Jarvis Landry. Everybody else is a question mark for Miami. Depending on how Allen Robinson's knee is looking, he's a start for me personally. That ball has to go to somebody in Jacksonville. Thomas, the tight end they recently acquired, still hurt. I'm not so sold on Allen Hurns, although he could see a lot of targets if Grimes shadows Robinson. Yeldon, I start. A lot of people probably drafted Yeldon to be an RB2. In PPR, I start him. In Standard, it's tough. I probably still start him just because of the lack of depth at that position. But everywhere else, I'm not starting Bortles, and I'm not so sure if I'm starting Stills. Cameron, the tight end for the Dolphins, I trot out there. He had a decent game. He had a decent amount of targets from Tannehill. So nothing really sneaky there. You know who you're starting. You know who you're benching. Moving on to Arizona at Chicago. Start all your Cardinals. That's all that needs to be said. As for the Bears, I'm benching Cutler. It's tough. I think Peterson's going to shadow Jeffrey. I know that you drafted Jeffrey high. I don't see the point production there. If I have other options, maybe I do have a John Brown, maybe I do have a Pierre Garçon. I'm actually benching Alshon Jeffrey this week. So moving on from that matchup, Forte you're obviously starting because you used a first or second rounder. Move on. Detroit at Minnesota. Start everybody. Unless you have better options at quarterback for Teddy Bridgewater. I think you got to trot out Charles Johnson, Mike Wallace. This secondary's not that good, even though the Vikings passing game-wise didn't look that great. You're definitely starting Calvin, even though he only got 4 targets. It's just week 1. Don't panic. You're going to chuck out Charles Johnson out there. Stafford you're going to start. Tate you're going to start. You're definitely starting Amir Abdullah. And Joyce Bell started to mix in if he's a desperation option because, maybe you got a stud RB1 and you're just playing matchups. Joyce Bell's an interesting plug-and-play flex. As for the Minnesota Vikings, AP you're starting. Charles Johnson you're starting. Mike Wallace you're starting. You might even start a couple of those defenses. I could see some turnovers. I could see a potential defensive touchdown in that game. That's how the NFC North rolls, baby. Moving on, New England at Buffalo. If you got a better option than Tom Brady, you might want to employ it this week. I'm not the biggest fan of Brady's point production. Also, in terms of that running game, whether it's Blunt, I'm not starting Blunt. I think that dominant defense of the Bills is a little too scary for me personally. And I'm also probably going to start Dion Lewis. I know I said last week to not start him. I was wrong about that. I apologize. I'm not a computer. I'm not an android made by Dr. Giroux. I cannot predict the future. Just doing the best I can with the information I have available to me. Someone's got to be that PPR back for Tom, and especially in a game where it's going to be hard to get yardage in between the tackles. Dion Lewis might be a guy you trot out there. Gronk is an obvious start. As for Buffalo, I personally, in a redraft, I'm starting Tyrod Taylor. The rushing yard upside is there. I think Sammy Watkins gets a little bit more involved. Malcolm Butler played big in week 1 against Pittsburgh, but I think Sammy Watkins can break free. McCoy you're starting, and those guys you all know. So it could be a very interesting day in that AFC East divisional matchup. Tampa Bay at New Orleans. I'm starting both quarterbacks. Say what you want about Winston's first week, but Jameis Winston still put 20 fantasy points up. That's all I need. I'm not looking for him to be my personal franchise quarterback. I need him to put up points, and that's what he'll do. I'm starting Cooks. I might even start Brandon Coleman in deeper leagues, desperate leagues. I'm definitely starting Mark Ingram. If Spiller's out there, you start him. He's going to catch passes. I mean, Ingram with 8 catches on 10 targets, some of those are going to go to Spiller. So I think the Saints D could be a sneaky start. Again, rookie quarterback on the road in the Superdome could provide some turnover opportunities. That Saints defense is not that good, but again, it's the fact that you're going up against a rookie quarterback here. There could be some points there. As for the Tampa Bay running back game, I'll start Doug Martin if I don't have anybody else. So definitely. Moving on here to the next matchup on the slate here, Tennessee at Cleveland. I don't like Mariota this week. I'm benching him. If I'm the only Titan that I'm starting is Kendall Wright, just because Mariota has a bromance for him. As far as Cleveland, I'm staying away from everybody but Isaiah Crowell. I think he could have a decent day. I'm not starting Manziel. I'm not starting Travis Benjamin. I'm not starting Brian Hartline. That's just a disgusting mess that I want absolutely nothing to do with. So, moving on from that matchup, we've got Houston at Carolina. Interesting matchup here. I'm benching Cam once again. I'm just without Kelvin Benjamin. I'm not even discussing whether I'm starting Cam. Now he did rush for 13 times, so again that could hold him up this week. If you got a Matt Ryan, you got somebody like that. Those are the guys that I'm starting. Houston, you have to start Hopkins. Anybody else though, I'm not too sure about. Alfred Blue just does not look like an NFL running back. I don't know who's playing number 2. I think Cecil Shorts is number 2, playing second fiddle to Hopkins, but I don't trust that. Ryan Mallett might be the starter. I'm not all about that too. I'm definitely starting Jonathan Stewart if I own him. He's showed that whenever he's healthy, he will be the workhorse for this team. Devin Funchess could be an interesting flex, but again, it just doesn't inspire me with a lot of confidence, so I'm probably going to stay away from that game if I can. Moving on, San Diego at Cincinnati. I love Ladarius Green in this matchup. I think he'll play big for Phillip, especially when those decent corners, Darqueze Dennard, Terrence Newman, Pac-Man Jones, that decent secondary, playing pretty decent. I'm not too sold on guys like Keenan Allen. I think you have to start guys like Keenan Allen and Stevie Johnson, but don't expect them to blow up. I like Ladarius Green. As far as the Cincinnati Bengals, the only guys I'm starting are A.J. Green and Jeremy Hill and Gio Bernard in a PPR. That's it. I'm avoiding everyone else like the plague. I'm not starting Dalton. There are other quarterbacks that I could find with better upside there. Moving on to the Baltimore at Oakland matchup. Only Raven I'm starting is Steve Smith, unless you count Justin Tucker, but that's just a kicker. I'm sitting Amari Cooper against this defense. This game just does not. I just don't want any stock in this game whatsoever. Oh, and I'll probably start Forsett just because with the Lorenzo Taliaferro injury, Buck Allen has not looked good. So. Good luck to you on that matchup. Sunday night game, Seattle at Green Bay. I'm starting every stud that Seattle has. In terms of Green Bay, I'll say this: I'm a little bit worried on who Sherman covers. We saw last year when Jordy went into Seattle, the Pack Jordy didn't put up a stout fantasy day. So if Adams is drawing the Sherman coverage, and I have Adams in 3 of my 5 leagues. I'll be honest with you. If I got other options, I'm going to bench him. I think Cobb, I think guys like Ty Montgomery and the tight end are going to benefit. You're going to see Adams get a couple catches. I just don't think he's going to blow up. I think you're looking at most a 10 to 12 point PPR fantasy day from Davante Adams. Unless he gets into the end zone and proves me wrong, well, then you can point and laugh at me, guys. As finally, the Monday night matchup, Jets, Colts. I'm starting Ivory. In sneakier, deeper leagues, if I got to start Ryan Fitzpatrick because I'm streaming quarterbacks, maybe in a 16-man league, maybe something like that, I start him, I trot him out there. You have to start Luck, even though, once again, the defensive matchup isn't good. Again, after this week, every matchup on paper is a dream. Monitor the T.Y. Hilton injury. Listen, if you got better options going into Sunday, I take them. I'm not risking, having to rely on a hurt T.Y. Hilton Monday night. So that's pretty much it for the matchup, guys. I tried to run through them as quick as possible. Sorry if it took, forever, or sorry if I went a little too quickly for you guys. I want to fit all that in. I don't want you guys sitting through, a 20-hour-long video. So quickly now, defensive streamers. Again, I mentioned it, the Saints D, and again, it's not so much that they're dominant or that they're even good. I just think a rookie quarterback coming to play in that hostile environment, could provide some turnovers and maybe even a run back to the house type of deal for the Saints. I think that you could potentially get a 10-point defensive day. And again, that's not going to win you weeks, but that's going to provide you with a high floor for the rest of your team going in. Another defense that I like, Minnesota. They didn't play great last week, but they're at home. Okay, we know this Lions team likes to pass the football a lot. I like Everson Griffin and those boys to get to the quarterback. I think Mike Zimmer is going to make some professional adjustments because that's what he does. There are other options out there. Go for it. At deeper leagues, though, I like the Minnesota D as a potential 7 points, 8-point spot start. Could get a turnover. We know Matthew Stafford can be erratic at times. And Minnesota is loud and uncomfortable. So I think Minnesota could be a spot start. I think the Carolina defense could be a nice spot start against Houston. The Panthers are at home. They have a pretty good defense still. I think if you have to trot them out there against a potential first start for Ryan Mallett of the season, maybe he's turnover prone. And again, no Foster. So this is a team that's going to have to rely on the arm of their quarterback to win. My sneaky defense, believe it or not, is the Atlanta Falcons. This is a team that played big. Dan Quinn, his arrival has clearly made some improvements on this football team. I think that it is a desperation play. I'm going to throw that out there. Purely desperation. But I think that could be a sneaky defensive stream for you guys. So go ahead and check those options out. Tight end streams. I'm going to just name off my top 5 tight ends in no particular order here. Just my top 5 streams of the week. Ladarius Green, Crockett Gilmore, Dwayne Allen, Heath Miller, and Austin Seferian-Jenkins. Last week against the Minnesota Vikings, the New England Patriots, we saw Heath Miller get 18 PPR points. I think without Martavis Bryant, without Le'Veon Bell, you could expect to see another double-digit production game from Heath Miller in a PPR. I trot him out there. Ladarius Green, without Vontaze Burfict, without some of those good coverage linebackers, I think he's a guy that can see double-digit points as well, and he might even get into the end zone again. So this is a guy I definitely want to give a shot to. Dwayne Allen, we know the story with the cornerbacks in New York. Antonio Cromartie, who actually I think might be hurt, but he might play. And then you got all reliable Darrelle Revis. I think Dwayne Allen has a legit shot to get into the end zone again. Just one of those 3-4 catch games with a touchdown that holds you down with the 10 to 12 points. ASJ is not putting up 30 guys, but I think in that offense with the Saints, there either could be garbage time or it just could be a complete shootout where both quarterbacks are throwing that ball over 30 times. I think ASJ has a likely potential to see 6 targets. What he does with them, it's up to him. And finally, Crockett Gilmore. Guy should have had a touchdown at the end of the game if Flacco throws that ball just a little bit higher. Gilmore had his hands on the ball, but that was a great play by that Broncos defensive back to just swat that ball away and end that game. So those are my tight end streamers. Those are my defensive streamers. And that was just me kind of running down week 2. If you guys have any questions, this video will be posted Saturday and again on Sunday in case you missed it. Please ask me questions. If you guys have a quick dilemma for a start, shoot me an email. Hit me up on Twitter at SportsDebateTom. I'm at highstakesportsdebates@gmail.com. Very easy to reach. If you guys have any questions, I'm available all day. Again, check out highstakesportsdebates.wordpress.com. We have a podcast that comes out every week on Tuesday/Wednesday, depending on how I'm feeling. But, to get you ready early in the week for your starts, sits, buy lows, sell highs, everything you need to know. And this video podcast kind of supplements that, get you ready for the weekend. So thank you guys so much for the listen. Please comment, critique me. If I suck, let me know. I want to get better for you guys. So thanks so much for watching this video, and we will see you next time here on Fantasy First. Thanks so much for the listen, guys, and we'll see you next time.
High Stakes Sports Debates.